Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
What is up, Burn Nation? Welcome to the podcast. It's DK and MK here. We're excited to be with you today. What's up, Morg?
Hello.
And we have an amazing episode, you guys. I'm telling you, it's the end of January here in the first month of 2025, and Commit to Fit is live inside of Burn Nation. It's been amazing so far, and but there's also so many positive things happening from a health standpoint, a fitness standpoint in the macro. And we have some amazing articles that we want to share with you today. I'm going to go over those here in a moment, but first of all, Morg, this is an opportunity today, for us to just connect with the people. So what are you up to? What's going on in your life right now that's good? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Glad to be back. We took a little break there over the holidays and got to spend good quality family time and just get ourselves ready for a solid 2025. So end of January, I'm feeling good. I love the Commit to Fit challenge this year. It's kept me motivated and consistent in the gym, which is the word I'm using for 2025. I don't make resolutions, but I did have a focus, a word that is consistency. So that's consistency in workouts and nutrition and routine and my work schedule, just things like that. So I feel like I'm starting the year off right, ready for February, which is crazy that it's right around the corner.
Yeah, and Morgan and I pulled together our team at the beginning or the end of last year, prior to the beginning of this year, and said, hey, listen, all of us collectively make up this team as individuals, and each one of us are unique, and we all have our own unique experience. And so as we look forward to doing great things, not only as human beings, but also as human beings coming together with a pretty significantly large mission, and it takes all of us to grow. And this is the same as it might be on a baseball, basketball, football team, any sports team you've been on, is everybody has to show up and close their own gaps. Mm-hmm. And so the one word, the theme that we challenged everybody to come up with was really to identify their own gap and to have a theme word that they can go back to as they are trying to become better human beings this year. My word was focus, and then I had to have a subset of that word, and so it's reimagine, which means stay focused on what Morgan always tells me, the opportunities that are right in front of you, not creating net new opportunities, which is part of my mantra. But layering onto that is like reimagine what's already here. How could it be working better? What should we stop doing within what we're already doing, and what should we continue to do more of? So, yes, I'm excited. I want you to consider that, right? Even though it's January, end of January, today is the 29th. What is your word? Do you have a word? Reimagine yourself this year. We got some great stories today, Morgan. A lot of stuff happening in the macro. Mm-hmm. And as always, what we want to do is bring you, some things that are happening, bring them to your awareness so that you and your family can become healthier and happier people. So we have 5 stories today. I'm going to go through the headlines, and then we are going to get into today's episode. All right. FDA bans red food dye number 3. This has been a big topic on the podcast as of Q4 last year, and something that Morgan and I have, in the rest of Burn Nation, we have believed in never that you should have artificial colors in your food. So we have a video clip we want to show you guys to cover that topic. Story number 2, Stanford psychologist. The guy who wrote, many of you know this book, The No Assholes Rule, which is a famous leadership book or corporate culture book, has an interview with Inc. magazine, and he discusses this thing called the 90-10 rule that I think will make you a better leader. We wanted to share that with you, give some context in our own lives, and also the FDA updates healthy, their version of healthy. The claim.
Interesting. Can't wait to read this.
Their version of healthy. We're going to dive into that because the FDA's version of healthy has never been our version of healthy. Hopefully we can change that. They say that this healthy claim provides a refreshed tool for consumers. We'll see. Moving away from BMI. This is really, really interesting. Experts propose a new definition for obesity, Okay, we're going to dig into that. BMI has been long debated as a poor marker of health, and that's always been the marker for obesity clinically. Okay, and then the last story that we'll cover today, as well as some member questions, is a study that shows that new dementia cases in the U.S. are projected to double by 1 million, and why that's so relevant for us as people who are into fitness. And there's some really, really new, interesting science around, especially VO2 max and your ability to push your body's metabolic limits that have some connection to brain health. So, Morgan, are you excited about these? Are you excited about this?
I'm ready to talk about them.
We're going to talk about them.
Yeah.
Before we do that, we're going to listen to Jenny from Bluffton, South Carolina, because listen, everybody, Jenny has an amazing story, and she was so kind as to make a video with us, to collaborate with us here on the podcast to show you just an inside look at a burn member from Bluffton, South Carolina. Jenny.
Burn, I think I come here every day that I can because I love it so much, and it just feels like the right community for me. Originally, I started because I had kind of plateaued in my weight loss efforts. I had kind of fixed my nutrition, and then it just stopped, and so I needed something else. And a lot of my coworkers came here, and they're always raving about it, so I decided to give it a try. Everybody here was so kind and supportive. Like everybody working out and the trainers knew it was the right thing to do. My goals when I first started were lose weight, lose body fat, and I wanted to improve my blood work markers. This year, I did meet my goals. I lost body fat and gained muscle, and I got my triglycerides down and my glucose down. So now, a year in, and just kind of looking back on the year and resetting goals, I still want to get leaner, and build more muscle, but also kind of thinking of very long term. You know, how do I want to be when I'm 70 or 80, and what things do I want to do then? And making sure that I'm building the muscle and the strength that I'll need to live a fulfilling life. To anybody who's wondering if they should try it out, or maybe anybody who's wondering if they should commit, I would say just do it, and you'll figure the rest out while you're here. If you're like me, it'll be the best thing that you've ever done for yourself.
That's awesome. Well, Jenny, thank you for sharing. I love your mindset around just, being excited for what you've done, but also, excited for what is next for you. So congratulations on hitting your goals in that first year, and just so excited for you and what's to come. But guys, like she mentioned in the end of the video, if you have never tried a burn boot camp, we offer a free trial, 1 day, 3 day, 7 day, depending on the location. So make sure that you head to burnbootcamp.com, you search your location, and see what that offer looks like. We would love to have you join our community in 2025.
This article is going to be I'm excited. I don't know if you guys really understand how excited I am about this type of news coming in, because this is where Burn Boot Camp philosophy meets, I think, American diets and what the government is going to start to consider normalized. So the FDA has banned red food dyes due to the potential cancer risk. Food manufacturers have until 2027. January 2027, to remove the dye from their products. A little longer than we'd like to, but at least there is a deadline. I've got some predictions and things that are going to happen and cascade on top of this. Morgan, I really want to get your take too. And I know we've talked about just food coloring and food dyes on the show often, and just how if food doesn't come from the earth or isn't derived naturally, or at the very most minimally process, then likely it's not going to be something that we should be consuming. So if you guys want to just a little clip of this. I think we have a clip, do we not? We do have a clip, and this will just give you a snapshot. This is from Fox News, I believe. And this clip will there's Michael Strahan, Stephanopoulos. Who else is on the I think this guy's a doctor.
This is not Fox.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Who's this doctor on the left here? I think he's a doctor. We'll find that out. Okay, roll clip.
So red dye number 3, it's made from petroleum, and it's in many different products, from candies to cakes, even certain dairy products like strawberry milk, and even over-the-counter products like certain cough syrup and supplements. So in 2022, there was a petition that was formed by at least 24 health advocates. And the reason why is because past studies have shown that high doses of red dye number 3 were associated with cancer. More specifically, in rat studies, it was associated with thyroid cancer.
How soon will the products be coming off shelf?
So it's expected to be phased out by January of 2027. For drugs, it's expected to be phased out a year later, January of 2028. And it's important to know that imported foods also must abide by this law. And I didn't say this at the first time, but it's also necessary to understand that there was no evidence of cancer found in humans in any studies.
Before the ban takes place, what if you already have these products in your house right now?
Yeah, you can start by looking at food labels. You can list, the food labels will list the coloring ingredients that are involved in that food package. And also, while you're looking at that food label, as we were talking during the commercial break, take a look at added sugars, take a look at saturated fats. And if that product has more than 5 ingredients, it's more likely an ultra-processed food. These are products that we want to limit in our grocery carts.
All right. And well,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great. He sums it up really, really well in that clip about obviously what the ban actually means and just some other ways to start to look at your food labels. And that's something that you and I have been preaching for, 12 years now since we started doing our research. And if you know anything about Burn and our nutrition philosophy, we have always made sure that we are not preaching items that have artificial preservatives, artificial colors in it. So this is not anything new for Devin and I to get excited about. This one ban is obviously the start to many, many more things that could mean that the FDA and the government and these food manufacturers are going to be held accountable to make foods that are good for us. And, I think some people might hang on to the fact that there's been no studies proven that it causes cancer in humans. It does in rats. But I'm of the mindset of like, if you know better, let's do better. And that's been my message on this podcast is these companies need to do better because they do know better, but they are likely following the money and following the profit. And so for me, this is exciting. I have been keeping artificial, dyes out of my diet for years. I've never really introduced it to my kids. Of course, my kids have had it. They have candy. I am a regular mom that gives them, sweets and things like that, but at a limit because it does also have links to ADHD and just kids, their behavior, issues and how it's able to be processed in their body. So I think this is just one step forward. They have a couple more years to ban it. So it's still going to be in your food, just to make it very clear, like this isn't happening tomorrow, but it brings awareness to more and more people to just start to research what does this mean? And if I eat food that has this stuff in it, how does it make me feel? Maybe just ask yourself that, do some self-reflection. If I eat foods that have these ingredients that are banned in other countries and that we're pushing to ban in America, how does it actually make you feel? So I love the step forward. There is going to be still red dye 40. That's another big one that's in a lot of food that is that color red and has a lot of the same health impacts. So it is always very interesting to me that, hey, we banned 3, but not 40. It's like, okay, why are we just still allowing some of it still in here? That's always my bigger question is like, why does it take so much time, effort, and energy for us to just get one ingredient that's banned why can't we holistically look at artificial colors?
Yeah, and you heard him say, Dr. Sutton, you heard him say the coalition of kind of influencers and doctors and scientists getting behind signing this petition to get this moving. And to me, this marks the start of a new era in America, and America ultimately leads the world, so the world in terms of health, fitness, nutrition trends. And listen, let me give you a different perspective on this. This is what I think about. I think the whole thing's going to come tumbling down. I think that all 10,000 or so chemicals that are said or not to be consumed or digested by human beings that are found in American contemporary diet, I think this is the beginning of them all going down. It's now setting a precedence that this is bad for you. You mentioned Allure Red 40, Yellow 5, Yellow 6, Blue 1, Blue 2, Green 3. I mean, you've got similar dyes with specific concerns that I don't even know how to pronounce some of these things that are in our food. But the potential health effects of this, like ADHD, like you mentioned, and being a known carcinogen, and this is just the beginning. And here's the more macro trend that I notice is that it's the demarketization or the de-messaging or you could also say simplifying or more clearly stating exactly what a product is versus the drug companies and the marketing companies being able to market to you what this food isn't, what it could be. There's going to be much more strict regulations on both commercials on TV for drug ads, food ads, and all of these dyes, all they do is provide marketing benefit. There is no nutritional value in Red 3 at all. All it exists for is to make red velvet cupcakes bright red and attractive and, ooh, I want to get that one. It makes Fruity Pebbles stand out and stick out. It makes kids want to eat food because they're attracted to these bright colors. This is a marketing ploy. This is not a nutritional engineering ploy. This is not an ultimately economic engineering for margin of each individual item. This is mass volume. This is a mass volume play. We put this in our food so that we can market to people. The red dye itself isn't doing anything but attracting eyeballs. That's all it's doing. So now we're going to be able to actually market food for what it is.
And drugs, I think, too.
And drugs.
I mean, my kids.
And I'm excited for it because
Yeah.
it's about time.
I get the dye-free Motrin and Tylenol if my kids, are sick. And it's like, if you can make it dye-free, why are we? Of course, I have to pay $2 extra for that bottle of dye-free medicine. But it's like you said, it's just to make that cough syrup red versus white.
Yeah. And here's my take on it, too. Like, if the cough syrup goes up 10 cents because there's no longer red dye in it, and that's the only thing available, 10 cents is 10 cents, and we're going to have to deal with it. We do it all the time with gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
All right.
I'm excited for it moving forward, you guys. So we're gonna hopefully these predictions of the chemical engineering of our food in drug industry. Hopefully, it comes tumbling down over the next 10 years as we move toward what the FDA and the New York Post says could be a revolutionizing of American diets. We'll look forward to that. All right. What's next, Morg? What do we got? Let's see.
All right.
I
So
lost my
next
paper
we
here.
have the 90-10 rule that will make you a better leader. So this is coming from Inc. magazine. I think we're going to put it up here.
Have you read the No Asshole Rule book?
I haven't. I've
Okay.
heard of it, but I haven't actually read it, so can't take credit for that.
Okay, all right. So Stanford psychologist 90-10 rule will make you instantly a better leader.
Okay. Well.
Instantly is the key word, right? We gotta. Nothing happens instantly. Morgan, this actually really enjoyed this article. I think it's spot on, and you can kind of infer what the No Asshole Rule book is about in corporate America, which I'll give you like a quick paraphrase. It is, those leaders who serve other people, right, and wake up every day with that mindset rather than wake up every day with the mindset of you serve me. That's the basic principle. And organizations need to identify what we call above the line and below the line of leadership. If you're below the line, you're likely what he says is an asshole or an a-hole. And I'll stop saying asshole and cuss every 2 seconds. But one of the things that I think stuck out to me most in that book was, hey, you are an a-hole if you look in the mirror every day and think to yourself, man, all these people around me are a-holes. Everyone around me, everyone I see, they're all, come on, I don't like people, right? Then that's probably you. And so this psychologist also then, his name was what again? I forget the author's name. It's in here somewhere.
Is it Bob Sutton?
Bob Sutton.
Yeah.
That's interesting because the doctor's name was just Sutton too, but that's not the same guy.
Okay.
90-10 rule is basically that 90% of people will like you, 10% won't like you, and you need to like those lists and value those lists equally.
Yeah.
That you are just as happy about the 10% of people that don't like you versus the 90% of people that do like you, because if you don't, then you wake up every day expecting everybody to like you, and that's just not in the cards for everyone. And if you want 100% of the people like you, then you become passive and people walk all over you and you no longer, kind of stick up for yourself. And I'm exaggerating, but then that cascades into depression, blah, 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 blah.
So is it 90% of the time you are not likable and then 10% you are likable?
It's saying that your goal in life, your goal as a leader cannot be to have everyone like you.
Okay, so 90% of the people like you and 10 don't.
Yeah, 10 don't, because you're leading with a servant mentality.
Yeah.
But also there's 10% of people who are bitter.
Yeah.
Who are going to, no matter what you do, right? Like we're highlighting this on the screen for you guys right now. This is good. What's the ratio of admirers to critics? You guessed it. Sutton aims to have roughly 90% of people like him and accepts that 10% who exploit, they're takers, or a reference to his first book that put him on, they're assholes. They're not going to be his biggest fans because he represents something that they are missing inside of themselves that they envy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like it. I like that. I've definitely worked with people that are 10 and 90 the opposite way, and they don't last long in good organizations because, you know, people think to be respected that they need to like be a jerk and, you know, just use their power, I guess you could say, as a leader over other people. And that's never been my style if you've ever worked with me. So I like it, you know, but at the same time, you can't be a people pleaser. You have to hold your boundaries. You have to hold your ground. If you're a leader in an organization or you own a business, like you have to make tough decisions, and people aren't always going to like them, right? Those are going to be people that disagree with you. But, you know, again, if your ratio is 90-10, then you've got people that understand it, believe in you, believe in the greater good of why decisions are being made, and, you know, can move on. And you'll weed those people out pretty easily.
And as a championship organization, which, you know, I think any lasting, enduring, great organization has some elements of sports inside of them in terms of the way that they hold each other accountable, the way that they celebrate the wins, the way that they learn from losses. All championship cultures will win in the long run. And Morgan and I, we talk about the 5 levels of leadership all the time. This is originally, by the way, everybody, if you are into leadership, and, you know, by the way, you don't have to be a corporate leader. You can be a leader of yourself, your family. Everybody's a leader. Leadership is a choice. It's not a title. And so we study the discipline of leadership, Morgan and I do, because, you know, we want to be great as human beings for other people. We want to wake up and serve the best way that we can. So this is like the 5-level snapshot. I just want to give this to people real quick because I think it's really important. And you can then go look at John C. Maxwell, 5 levels of leadership. But there's 5 levels that he says. Number 1 is position. People follow you because they have to when you have the title president of an organization. Okay, you've earned the rights. Number 2 is permission. People follow you now because they want to follow you. You're building relationships. You're helping them out. You're building trust. Number 3 is production. You're producing results for these people that you show up every day, and you got the title. They like you. Everybody gets along. You're now producing results and helping them become better people, not just results for the organization, but results for them personally. And now they follow you because of not only your characteristics, your core values, they like you, but also of what you've done for the organization. And then the 4th level, John says, is that you just keep doing this over and over and over. Now people follow you because of what you're doing for them, like in multiples, and then other people see that. So you're able to reproduce that leadership, that people development. That's really where you start to build a name for yourself as a leader. And finally, it's the pinnacle of leadership, where you've done this for so long that people follow you because of who you are and what you represent. And so if you guys are watching this on YouTube, Spotify, what we have on the screen here just is a visual of the 5 levels of leadership by John C. Maxwell. And as a young entrepreneur, I didn't have any structure in terms of leadership, the leadership discipline. And so we found this book, and Morgan, maybe you can make a comment or two on how you've really used this to grow as the CEO of the organization.
I mean, yeah, I think it gives you aspiration of who you want to be and how you want to lead and what legacy you want to leave. So I think it's just always a good reminder to go back to this and take a self-assessment to be like, okay, what kind of leader am I and where is my opportunity? So this gives structure to it, and whether you follow this or not, it's just kind of motivating to know that there's different levels out there of how people are going to be led by you and the impression you're going to leave on them. But kind of going back to this article, just to round it out too, I think I like how it leaves you with like a test of this 90-10, like what kind of leader are you? And this could, like Devin said, apply to all areas of your life. It could be your friendship too, and how you're leading your friendships. But it says, pause right now and mentally run through a list of people you deal with on the day to day. How many of them like you? How many of them think you're difficult, self-righteous, pushy, inflexible, or otherwise a pain in the neck? So your answer doesn't exactly have to be 90% of the people for the first question and 10% for the second, but if it's wildly off and you're like, okay, if you're actually being self-accountable and saying, I don't think people like me that much, then maybe it's time to flip your script a little bit.
Flip that script. Okay, everybody, I have an announcement for you. As always, we are going to celebrate the new Burn Bootcamp locations that we have. Location number 420. This is Jim Saffron's 5th location in Vestavia Hills, Alabama. Congratulations to you, Jim, growing your empire. We got Jared and Cassie Pensek, Fox Chapel, PA, location number 421. All right, and that's not it, everybody. We got another location on the east coast of Florida, North Palm Beach, Florida. This is Chris and Gilda Green's 3rd location. They partnered up with Emily. This is Emily Edwards' 1st location, and they are building their empire on the east coast of Florida. So if you are in Florida, if you are in PA, or you are in Alabama, go see locations number 420, 421, 422. And if you want to be a Burn owner and join those amazing human beings, those individuals who are building their empire, and Morgan and I and our team here at HQ, we have a website you can go to, burnbootcampfranchise.com, burnbootcampfranchise.com, and just go there. You're going to land on this screen that you see right here, and then we're going to fill out your information. Click Get Started. You're going to talk to one of my team members on the other side. We're going to see if franchise and Burn Bootcamp ownership is right for you. All right? Okay, everybody, we are going to continue on with the podcast. And this next story is...
How about the FDA is now updating the healthy claim. So this is right on the FDA's website. We'll link it. And if you're watching us, we're going to pull it up here. But this is basically a new claim or a new label that manufacturers can now put, or eventually be able to put, right on their packaging. So to me, this is similar to other labels like gluten-free or certified organic. So it's got to meet certain criteria. And if I am reading this article correctly, the criteria for this is going to be, oh my goodness, I just lost it. Okay. Foods that qualify for a healthy claim must also meet certain limits on saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars. Under these changes, more foods that are key to healthy eating patterns will qualify for the healthy claim, which could make them easier for consumers to identify when they're shopping. These foods include nuts and seeds, higher fat fish such as salmon, olive oil, and water. The update definition for the healthy claim aligns with the current nutrition science. So, basically they say that data shows 77% of people exceed the current dietary recommendations for saturated fat. 79% exceed are low in dairy, fruits, and vegetables, and then 63% of people exceed current recommendations for sugars, and 90% of people exceed the daily recommendation for sodium. So they're taking sodium, sugar, saturated fat, fruits and vegetables, and they're saying, okay, if they contain a certain amount of this or they're under a certain amount of this, we're going to be able to allow them to put healthy, a healthy label on there. So
kind of like a USDA type of deal.
That's how I'm relating it. Yes. I mean, I think there's some pros to this. I think it's also, if I'm being honest, I wish consumers were sometimes not as gullible to just look at a label like healthy and say, okay, it must be healthy. I want us all to have a level of curiosity to say, okay, why though? Let me look at the back of the label. Let me look at, how much sugar is this? How much sugar is too much? And, it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. And which is why I think we don't necessarily have more and more people being curious. But, we've talked about the marketing ploys of claims and labels, and sometimes they can be off-putting and misleading. So, I'm gonna continue to follow this and see, you know, what does it look like? What types of food are getting this claim? But for me, it's not going to be the end all be all to buy a product. I'm going to still be more curious than what the claim says.
So I noticed this back in my early days of being a trainer. We have focus meetings here at Burn. So many of our members know what I'm talking about. If you don't, then it's just a one-on-one sit down with your trainer, and you go over your goals, you go over your vision for, you know, everything, and a lot of that has to do with nutrition. Well, I realized that as soon as you start showing people, you know, articles like this that have no prerequisite like background or knowledge or exposure to hearing language like this, or even thinking this way at all, like even being, I mean, this is just the reality. This is where I think we have a big opportunity as a society. Like Morgan's saying, is most people don't even know that you can read the macronutrients right on the back of any label. And furthermore, that the macro people might not know what macronutrients are largely. I know we're in our fitness community, so that term is pretty common, but en masse, people don't know what macros are. If I told somebody if I just walked the streets of New York City and asked 100 people to define what are macronutrients, they wouldn't be able to tell me protein, fat, and carbs. Mm-hmm. They'd give a mixed bag of a bunch of different answers. And so seeing this problem, what I always learned, this is my entrepreneurial brain translating into training and working with members, is that complex things need to be conceptualized. That we can't take something complex and explain it in a complex way and vomit NASM in our science books on people and things like that. We've got to learn to communicate in a more practical way. I've done this with psychology as well, just been able to articulate psychology in a practical way for people. So I had to learn to do that with nutrition for members because nutrition is complex, okay? So here's what we found, and this isn't my term, I didn't make this up, but I found this and added to it, and hopefully you like this as a way to remember the things that you should be staying away from. This is the education Morgan's talking about underneath the healthy label, like actually know what healthy means, okay? 3 white poisons. 3 white poisons: sugar, refined flour, and salt. Those are the 3 things that when you consume too much of those substances create inflammation. Inflammation is the root of all diseases. Okay, increased risk of chronic disease, danger. It's kind of like all these things are like mostly in like processed foods. Refined flour, especially messes with our blood sugar. Blood sugar spikes will happen when there's too much refined flour. It's all stripped of its nutrients, and the combination of those 2 things will promote weight gain. And salt, like underlying, is hypertension, right? Like, so these 3 areas, what we really want to do is identify these 3 things on the back of a label. Know how much you're supposed to consume in a day. In terms of sugar, I always tell people, I don't say 0 because that's unrealistic. But what I try to tell them is pick a number, okay? 75 grams or less or 25 grams or less of added sugar. And if you, because there's a little bit of truth in a lot of things. And so it's not like you have to eliminate, like you were saying earlier about the kids, like they have Red 3 once a month or something, right? You can have a Chick-fil-A sandwich like on a Sunday, and if the rest of
you can't. They're closed.
Oh, you're right.
Sunday.
You're right. No, we can have a Chick-fil-A on a Saturday, and if you ate healthy the rest of the week, you're gonna be fine. Okay, this is about consuming these things on a daily basis, and so I'm not demonizing you if you're a parent and you like to feed your kids a red velvet cupcake every once in a while. But we need to have a focus meeting, and I need to start educating you if you're feeding it to them every day and you don't see a problem with it, because there are problems with it. The 3 white poisons is where you need to start: sugar, refined flour, and salt. Know where it lurks, right? Know where those 3 things lurk in all your foods, and we'll do our best to continue to cover this stuff for you as we move the podcast forward. What do you think, Morg?
Yeah.
Are you able to?
No, I'm optimistically hopeful that this is the right direction. So
when you think about, I want to ask you a couple questions, because the 3 white poisons, I want to stay on that for just a moment. Mm-hmm. I think it's helpful for people when you think about that concept in a practical world, daily life. How do you go about identifying these things? Is it habitual now? Like, zoom yourself back into when you're first learning about it. How did you learn about it? Was
Yeah.
it just
It was a
practice,
lot of
practice?
It was a lot of label reading, like kind of to an obsessive point. But yeah, I was, the one that did grocery shopping. And so I would always be turning the labels around. And then I've gotten to the point where I just am very picky about the foods that we keep in our house, because I find that if it's in my house, I'm going to cook with it and then I'm going to eat it. So over time, I've learned, what are foods that are, reduced sodium and not a ton of sugar and not a lot of like white flour. Like our bread isn't white, like we have alternatives to all the things that I've learned over time. Doesn't mean I've completely removed things that have flour in them. I just try to find healthier alternatives. So again, now my shopping list and like the everyday things that you and I consume and that our kids consume have been due to that, scrutiny, I guess, for years. And now I'm like, okay, this is just the new routine. So we don't introduce a lot of new things unless it meets certain criteria as well. Like I love a good Costco run, but they have a lot of like new products and I'll be like, okay, is this going to be a good snack for the kids? Well, the first thing I'm going to look at is the back of the label and what is the sugar content. And because I know once I have it in that pantry, it's game on with my kids. So I got to make sure whatever's in there, I'm okay them consuming on a daily basis.
And Jordan, we have a clip that really explains what the healthy claim is too. So let's roll that clip. I want to hear Morgan and I's reaction from it.
To help us understand this evolution, I spoke recently with Lindsay Smith-Taylor. She's a nutrition epidemiologist at the University of North Carolina's Gilling School of Global Public Health. Lindsay, welcome back to the program. The FDA is updating this definition of quote unquote what is a healthy food. 3 decades since they have last done this. What is the new criteria they're using to determine what's healthy and what's not?
Sure. So the new criteria are that foods need to have be under the thresholds for added sugar, which is new and didn't exist at the time that the initial ruling was released back in the 90s, as well as sodium and saturated fat. And so the idea is that this is really in line with the current dietary guidelines for Americans. And then the other change is that the foods have to have some amount of food groups that are recommended. So things like fruits and vegetables, nuts, legumes, and things like that. And that previously was not part of this rule.
Do you think?
Okay, so they're close. Like the 3 white poisons that we talked about, it's similar. There's crossover there. They add saturated fat instead of flour, which is an interesting one. That's my take. I'm going to dive deeper into that and kind of understand why that is. I don't at this point. What do you think? What do you think about the that last piece of criteria? So it was has to have like some healthy food group in it. But that's very vague. It was very vague to me. Like it has to have some healthy food group in it.
Yeah, I probably need to do a little bit more research on, again, what they define as healthy food groups, because it's been a while since I've taken the FDA's recommendation on making food choices. So, yeah, I think,
do you think that's something you actually want to, do you strive to look to the FDA?
But you asked me, so.
That's what I'm saying. So I would want to know, like, your honest answer. Like, does this even relevant to you? Do you even?
Not me personally. But I also am not necessarily, this is what I do, like we're into fitness and health. So I have learned to do my own research. Like I said, have my own level of scrutiny, and I don't necessarily follow everything that the FDA puts out there, but I do know there is a segment of our population that does. And so I'm excited about this, and I think it's important. And that's why, I admittedly needed to do more research on it, because it's not something I personally follow, but people do. And so it is important. And I think this is a great step in the right direction.
So this next article is very important to me. Hopefully it's very important to you all. It's from the AP News, and it's moving away from BMI. Experts propose a new definition for obesity. This is really interesting. We're going to take this one very carefully. So let me just go ahead and read some of this. Actually, let me play a clip, and then we'll read some of this text. Go ahead and roll video.
So the commission proposes to change the definition of obesity from simply being relatively heavy for your height to being ill because of having too much fat?
Yeah, so the new term of clinical obesity is when someone has excess body fat by either BMI and another measurement of body size, along with a symptom or sign that's impairing their health or their reduced quality of life. We're hoping to change the discussion and awareness that BMI is insufficient to diagnose obesity and to get help for those who have clinical obesity earlier.
Everybody's known for a long time that BMI was flawed, but people couldn't figure out a way to replace it. We have gone to the mat and rolled up our sleeves in an effort to come up with that replacement.
Well, this is really exciting to me because one of our goals is to, in our mission statement, is to ignite global health transformation, right? And what that means to me is working backwards. It's like we need to know where we are. In order to know where we're going, we have to know where we are. BMI has always, by the way, everybody, like this is also well known in my worlds, like professional baseball worlds and things like that. Like BMI didn't consider muscle mass. Okay, so you could be somebody who was really short, maybe like 5'2", but you could be 180 pounds and you could be like stocked with muscle, and you would technically you could be obese or overweight. So BMI used to be, I believe it was 25. If your BMI is 25, which is just a height to weight ratio, if you're 25, you were considered overweight, and if it was 30 or more, fact check me on that. A BMI was 25. It was 25 for overweight and 30 or more for obese. And then we were getting numbers spit out to us like 70% of the country is overweight and 40% is obese. Okay, so BMI has here it is right here on the screen for you all. BMI has long been considered a flawed measure that can overdiagnose, underdiagnose obesity, which is currently defined as BMI of 30 or more. That's obesity. Yeah, so I'm correct. And overweight was 25. That was always the more debated one. Was 25 being overweight. There was periods of time where I would look at somebody with a 25 BMI, this person is in peak shape. They're not overweight. And people with high muscle mass, football players, other athletes might have a high BMI, but despite normal fat mass. So this is going to change some of those numbers because all of those obesity and overweight statistics are based on the clinical definition of obesity and overweight human beings, which was BMI. Now it's fundamentally shifting to a body fat specific criteria. Where in this article, okay, so under the new criteria, about 20% of people who used to be classified as obese would no longer meet the definition. Preliminary analysts suggest. And about 20% of people with serious health effects but lower BMI would now be considered clinically obese. So, and about 20% of people with serious health effects but lower BMI would now be considered clinically obese. Okay. Thoughts?
I mean, I think this is also great because, like we've said, there's been a lot of people that are considered obese that are not. And unless you're, if you're in the doctor and they're saying, yeah, you're clinically obese, and they're taking you down a path and you're really just got a lot of muscle mass, then that's super discouraging. But now they're going to take into factors your waist circumference plus evidence of health problems that are tied to extra pounds. So I think what this allows doctors to do is just give the help and the care to the people that are actually at risk for, some sort of early cause of death or disease or sickness, illness because of their weight. Put them on medications or obviously help them down a dietary pathway.
Yes, and so overall, this seems to be a step in the right direction to diagnose a problem to more specifically solve it, like Morgan said. So I'm all in for it. I would like to see more on exactly what the definition is because this article still leaves it pretty vague, like what health markers and how are we tying it back? Because this also could be, let me put my skeptic hat on for a moment. This could also be a way for the medical industry to look better. One of the most disturbing statistics to come out of our country is our obesity numbers. When they put nearly half of our society in a category obese, that's not a great reflection on the medical industry. That's not a great reflection on these people who then get to decide what that actually is. So the people that have the keys to the definition of obesity get to decide it. We need to have full transparency into exactly what the formula is, because I don't see the full formula on here. Do you?
No, it just said what I was just mentioning about waist circumference and then other diseases, and it links it out. So
okay, all right. Well, exciting, interesting. How do you feel about that, everyone? All right, we have a member question from Faith, Columbia, Maryland. I struggle to hold heavier weights for certain exercises. How can I help improve my grip strength? Have you ever had this issue, Morgan? How
definitely.
How can I improve my grip strength? I got one way.
Well, I think gloves. That's where my mind first went, is usually like some sort of grip that you can actually wear. Because I personally do not know how to improve your natural grip strength other than using products that help you do it. So let's hear it. What do you got?
Well, there's a couple ways that you can improve your grip strength. Most notably, hanging. If you just hang.
Give your body some reps.
Just hang, yeah. Get up there. You want that forearm, really grip that bar. Hang from a pull-up bar. Time under tension on your forearms. That'll definitely increase your grip strength by increasing the amount of time you could hold up the same amount of mass. So if you can hold up the same amount of mass for more time, you're going to increase your grip strength. If you do actually like acute forearm exercises, so you have a band or you have, let's say 20, 25, maybe 10-pound dumbbells even, and you're doing repetitions, forearm movements, okay? And both ways. These were big baseball exercises here for your forearms, just doing wrist curls on all planes of motion. You got to be careful with the last one. Just this way, and then this way. Just be careful with the last one. Don't do that. Do that in, not alone. We have the, let's see, the third one you could do. You could also do farmer's walks. You could, instead of walking like consistently, you could pause after the hold. So you walk down, you walk back on a farmer's walk, and I want you to stand there, and I want you to hold the weight after you can't walk anymore. And as soon as it drops, I want you to pick it up and hold it again. As soon as it drops, I want you to pick it up and hold it again, and just fill that grip out over and over. So I know we do a lot of farmer's walks in the gym. So when you come back and you want to set your weight down, don't do that. And if you need to, set it down, pick it right back up, and practice that grip strength. So, and then, obviously grip strength versus then tools to hold more weight are two different things. Versa grips are what I use. Can you guys Google Versa grips just so people can see what I'm talking about? Versa grips are these straps that you put around your wrist. Morgan, you used to have some pink ones. Have you used them in a long time? I think it's been a while since you used them.
It has been. I think they're sitting in our gym at the house. I'm just bad at bringing them to camp, so I don't use them often.
Your strategy is just like raw, just grab the weight and build calluses and just these right here. These are what you used to have. These will help you a ton if you guys are struggling with your grip. I use them. It's not going to help necessarily grip strength, but you'll be able to hold weight longer in movements like deadlift, farmer's carry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just don't use that as a crutch for poor grip strength. Also work on your grip strength. Great question, Faith. We appreciate it. And I know that so many of you are listening that are not from a gym out there in Burn Boot Camp. And we have a Burn On Demand program. We wanted to share it with you because the community can meet you exactly where you are. We have recently expanded a few of our Burn On Demand categories as well. We've added 5 new quick camp videos as well as new stretching videos for you who are not close to a gym, but also for you members who, you need to lengthen. You're strengthening all the time, but we need to lengthen more. And I want you to take advantage of these Burn On Demand videos. And also when you're buying these 5 new quick camps, if time is a struggle for you on any given day. If you aren't subscribed to Burn On Demand, make sure that you guys click the link here, okay? And take advantage of the 7-day trial that we have on demand. Or if you're near a gym, even better. Even better. I use Burn On Demand at least once a week. All right, Morgs.
All right, our last article we have a video for. So why don't we kick it off with our video, and then we will reflect on what we heard. Here we go.
during exercise and after exercise, the lactate that is generated, from muscles that gets into circulation is consumed by the brain. This has been shown in humans and animal studies, of course, but it's consumed by the brain. And also, not only is it consumed, it's acting as a signaling molecule and increasing at the blood-brain barrier. Lactate itself has been shown to be responsible for the production of what's called VEGF. This is it's a vascular endothelial growth factor, VEGF. And what it's doing at the blood-brain barrier is it is growing new vessels and repairing damaged ones. So that brings it back to what we were just talking about, right? The vascular damage at the blood-brain barrier. Lactate itself is a signal to increase that VEGF. It also increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, at the blood-brain barrier and in the brain as well.
Okay, so the first
Maybe we should back it up a little.
Yeah, the
too,
first
with
time
some
I heard
stats.
this, I was like, what did this lady just say? What is a BDN? Okay, let's back it up a little bit. ABC News has a study that this is a part of this clip, and it says new dementia cases in the U.S. projected to double to 1 million by 2060, which is directly correlated with fitness. We now know this, okay? The term she uses, lactate, which is, let's just say that lactate is produced in the muscle, from the muscle, when we exercise our mitochondria, or the engines to our metabolism, at their highest level. The more we, how would you say, the harder we work out, the more effort we exert, the more demanding our training is, the higher the lactate release. The higher the lactate release, the more these two things, these two neurotropic factors, okay? She says VEGF. I don't know, I forgot exactly what that means, but I do know brain-derived neurotropic factor, and I do know that those two things at the blood barrier, at the blood-brain barrier, do exactly what she said. Damage cells get repaired, and new tissue, new vessels are created, and this actually reverses dementia, because dementia is housed in the brain, or what happens when the part of the brain called the hippocampus starts to deteriorate because there is a lack of repair or lack of these neurotropic factors, which I'm sure there's other things that affect this too, but just staying in what I know. I'm not the expert, this lady was. But what she's saying is that when you go hard in a workout, it increases your lactate. Your lactate repairs your brain. When it repairs your brain, you make new hippocampus brain matter material. You're fending off deterioration. Dementia comes when you have deteriorated hippocampus, which is responsible for like long-term memory, short-term memory, etc. So I think I'm right. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. I'm just trying to work it all out for you so that I can translate what she just said into what the action item that I took away from this is, which is work out hard. It's strength training right now is getting all the hype. It's getting all the press. It's strength, hypertrophy. Absolutely, 100% yes. Okay? And that is exactly what we need for our musculature to be strong. But you're forgetting that what keeps us healthy and happy, the central two organs, the brain and the heart, okay, both have a form of exercise that are going to benefit one maximally. So, yes, the musculature from hypertrophy and strength training, it's so important, but also the demanding burst training that we do, the athletic conditioning, the metabolic conditioning. We need to train our metabolism. We need to increase the lactic acid produced by workouts. We need to increase the lactate. I forget the measurement decibels, but there's some measurement decibels. If you go watch that whole podcast, by the way, that whole podcast is really, really good. I started watching like the first half of it, and I'll finish it. But it's really good because Dave Attia starts to go into a lot of this stuff that I'm explaining, and he might even explain it a little bit better for you. But that is very important, right? Is to have strength training focused on the musculature and feeling good and looking good and your posture and the way, the longevity of your joints, but also the longevity of your brain is even more important. And so demanding training, all of our conditioning protocols are going to be metabolic protocols, which are going to increase the levels of VEGF and BDNF, which are ultimately the repair mechanisms for structures in the brain.
I think it's too, the other thing I wanted to note here in the article is other risk factors for dementia, right? So obviously the article talks about how it's on the rise. The video talked about things we can do to either slow it down or prevent it if you're somebody that is at risk. But other factors are, of course, genetics, but then high rates of diabetes, hypertension, obesity, unhealthy diet, lack of exercise, and poor mental health. So while we, talk about the strength training and, what Devin just talked about, I think there's these other things too that are very important that, you don't want to overlook, which is your nutrition, which is your mental health, right? Like, and of course, if you are at risk because you maybe have family members and it's in your genes, like just more the reason to make sure you're focusing on yourself right now, because what you do today is going to be what your world looks like when you're 50, 60, 70 years old. So that's been a big aha for me as I have experienced this close in my family.
No matter where you're at, it's never too late to start. And we always will welcome you with open arms at any of our Burn Boot Camp locations across the country. As you saw during the episode today, we have over 400 gyms. And then also, if you're not near one of those, we have Burn On Demand for you to be a part of this community and to step into into a workout every day and show yourself what you're made of. I think it's important this year that, like we said at the beginning of the episode, that you pick a word, and that word to get better at that word, to fulfill your promise to yourself. I promise you, fitness will be a main tool. Demanding training will be a main tool to help you become what you've always desired. So we're excited to continue to grow this community. We're excited that you're here listening. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. And Morgan, we're going to take it out like we always do. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.
Bye, guys. Thank you.